Hey everyone, this is me, Lance Maxter, the Undead Viking. Today I'm going to be talking about collections. Now, I'm not just talking about board game collections. One of the reasons why I'm talking about this today is I spent the last 3 or 4 days, you can kind of see some behind me, going through my role-playing game book collection, getting rid of some stuff, categorizing it, just finding lost treasures, that sort of thing. And I'm still in that process. I've been part of like role-playing games since like I was a kid. I got introduced to them in the mid to late 70s, and it's been an ongoing love affair with role-playing games ever since then. I'm not here to talk about that though. Maybe I'll do that in another video. But over that course of time, I have slowly but surely amassed. I don't know how many books. Too many. Many books. And a few years ago, like right before COVID, I got rid of a bunch. I found an online seller that would be willing to take them, really pennies on the dollar, but I was happy just to get rid of them and get them out of my house, just because I was never going to read them, never going to use them, never going to whatever. And, it was just, they had to go. And that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at with collections here. So when I got into the board game hobby, this was, 15 or so years ago. I mean, and again, played board games before, had a few, but when you really dive in, and those of you who are watching this probably know exactly what I'm talking about. When you really seriously dive into it and you start like researching, and that game looks cool, and that game looks cool, and that game looks cool, and you start purchasing those games and getting those, and your collection starts to grow. And as time goes on, your collection and the number of games in your collection is usually dependent on like a few things. It's dependent upon, your love for the hobby. It's dependent upon your access to resources that'll allow you to purchase those games. And it relies on space. And if you go online, you can read people talking about how I used to have a board game closet, then I had a board game room, then I had a board game hallway, then I had a board game bathroom, and their collections start to absorb all of the areas in their house. And this can be said about any type of collection. Again, I know people that collect records. I know people that collect or used to anyway, collect CDs. I used to have a huge CD collection. Huge. I worked at a music store for years. And so whenever people would bring in their used CDs, I get to pick of the litter at that time, which was a really easy way and a nice way to get a really awesome CD collection. I have a very small number of records that I have right now. And I have been actually like, I been trying to make sure I don't like go crazy and go to like hit up used vinyl stores and what have you to like go through their stuff and pick up those things. But the allure is absolutely there. I'm a big music nerd as well as all the other hobbies I do. But the point of all this is, why do we collect and why do we have these things, and why do these collections eventually just kind of consume our lives? And this is going to be kind of a serious topic, and I'm going to make light of it a little bit. And so please don't take any of this. I know the process of hoarding, and I know the process of having too much stuff is a very, very real thing. I have family members who can't ever get rid of anything. I have family members that I know that when they will no longer live in their homes for whatever reason, it is going to fall to me to go through their homes and clean out their stuff. One of the like things my father decided, my father is 81 years old. One of the things my father started doing about 5, 6 years ago, him and his wife began just purging all of their stuff. They downsized the house to a very, very small house, and then they got rid of a ton of their things that were in there. And that was, I was kind of proud of them, because it wasn't one of those things where it was going to fall upon myself or my brothers to have to take care of that. And they were able to disperse those things to people. But I'm kind of getting off the topic here. My point there is it's very easy to collect things. Owning things and collecting things and being able to see those things is a very pleasurable thing. It lacks and latches onto that dopamine and it makes us feel good. When I probably had a collection at one point of around 3,000 board games. And that's an insane number. And I know people that have even more. But I was never going to play all of them. I was never going to have enough time to play all of them. I was never going, there were tons that were still in shrink wrap that I just hadn't gotten around to picking up. Now, I was in a very fortunate situation when I was a board game reviewer and I was like doing that pretty much full time. I was able to get board games relatively cheap, and or free. And so that at least the resource part of it was taken care of. But the space part of it definitely wasn't. When I first started getting the board game hobby, I was living in a 3 bedroom apartment with my wife and my young daughter. And then like the third room bedroom became the computer room for my wife and I to play World of Warcraft together, but also all the board games were in that room as well. When we moved out of that home, and we moved into this house here, and we've lived here now for if I remember correctly, it's like 15 or 16 years now. This house was what we thought was going to be huge. I mean, it was just, I mean, we planned on having another child, which we did. We had our son. And but it was still, with the 4 bedrooms and the 3 baths and the whole 9 yards, we felt that there was going to be lots of room to do things. And then COVID happened, and so my wife now predominantly works from home. And so one of the bedrooms became her home office, and which is fine. I mean, she needs a very quiet place to work, and I'm not don't want to complain. But that was where I kept all my games, and then it was one of the situation where I had all these games, and I didn't have a place to put them anymore. And it was one of those things where, and I told the story before, but when we refinished the flooring in this family room slash basement that I'm in right now, I had to put all those games into storage, and it took us about 6 months to renovate the basement. And I realized that I hadn't really missed any of the board games that I had put into storage. And it was kind of a light bulb moment where I said, "This is stupid. Why do I have all these things?" And I still probably have like 300 or 400 games, and they're still in a storage unit, and I need to get rid of those. I need to get down to 50 or so, and it's easy at first when you get rid of a collection. Any collection for that matter. It's very easy to get because you realize I'm never going to play this. I'm never going to play this. I don't want this. I played that and it wasn't fun. But you start getting into like hard decisions and difficult decisions to make. And I do think that if you've never had a big collection, it's tough to get rid of. If you've got 100 games, it's tough to get rid of 50. It's different. But it's exponential. Like when you have 1,000, it's easy to get rid of 50 of whatever. And it's difficult. There are lots of games where I'll that I know I'll never play, but I can't get rid of. Just because of the fact that they're either rare or out of print, or I can't handle it, or I just can't handle the idea of not having it because it just latches on to some time in my life or some purpose in my life. Like like the very first game I ever got as a free review copy, it was this zombie game it's really not that great of a game. But the fact of the matter is somebody sent it to me for free. I've kept that. And I mean, I played it like, probably I haven't played it in years. I played it, 2 or 3 times to do the review, but I still since just haven't played it. But I can't get rid of it just because it latches onto that. So what is the difficulty in having these collections, right? So I mean, you can't see it, but I mean, there's this giant stack of games, that stack of books, that stack of books behind me. That is a stack of books that I am going to be shipping off to somebody who's going to give me 25 cents on the dollar for those books, because they have a big online presence, and I've worked with them before when I got rid of stuff, and I'm going to be happy once it's gone. Once I get those into boxes and I take them to FedEx and ship them off, I'll be really happy that they're just gone and done. But you can see there's a bookcase. You can kind of see it right over there. You can see that's full of stuff. Now, there's a lot of books over there that I'm never going to read again, that I'm never going to look at, never going to touch, never going to whatever, but I just, for whatever reason, they didn't make this cut. But they will. A lot of those books over there will make that cut. I've got two bigger bookshelves over there that there's bookshelves in there that are going to make a cut that I'm going to get rid of. I have that door, you can see that's right there. Behind that door is another collection of old RPG books that like date back even further. Like I haven't extricated all, like there's a ton of like Earth Dawn books, Battletech books, and so on and so forth that are behind that door that I want to drag out. I want to take a look at again and decide whether or not I'm going to keep those or get rid of them as well. And those are tough decisions, and it's the connection you have with them that you have to break, and you have to kind of move on with your life. Now, the whole point of this is like why it's bad to have, and I realize that the title of this is kind of like a negative thing, and I'm going to just say right now that if you have a giant collection of blank and you like love it and you have enough space for it and it isn't impeding anything in your life to have it, then you should have it. And you should have it and you should keep it and you should do whatever you want with it. What I say doesn't matter. But what I'm going to say is, and then I realize like the title of this video is a little bit alarmist or whatever, like why you shouldn't have giant collections of things, is that there's a few things that I want to touch on. First of all, the and this is again my opinion. If you're not going to play it and it's not going to hit the table soon, there's really no sense in owning it. Like I just went through a kitchen drawer that was full of kitchen utensils that like of stuff I at one point I thought I needed like an Apple Core machine, but I never used it, and it's been sitting in that thing for 4 years, just sitting there, not being used. It's gone. I ditched it. I took it to Goodwill along with a box of a whole bunch of other stuff, and I just dropped it off and let hopefully it goes on to somebody else that can use it. Having giant collections of things that you're never going to use that don't have some sort of personal attachment tied to them is ridiculous. And you should recognize the fact that it is ridiculous and move on. And I realize that's tough. That's super, super tough to turn that key. And me saying it isn't going to change anything. But I guarantee you there's going to be a common point in your life when you realize it. If you want to know how you realize that, go to an estate sale someday. My wife and I go to estate sales. We enjoy them. We like looking at the things that people have collected that are now being given up. Those estate sales happen because, unfortunately, the person that owned them at one point no longer lives. They're no longer around. And what usually happens in those situations is family members come in, they take the few things that they think they want or they think they want to, keep to remember that person by. But in a lot of those situations, it is also they make sure they take the stuff that's worth the real money and they either keep it or they actually actively try to sell it. But then the rest of it is just stuff. And you have an estate sale where basically you open up this person's house and you put a price tag and everything, and you let people come in and walk around and pay next to nothing for the stuff that was owned by this person who's no longer around. And in a lot of these situations, you go in there and they have giant collections of stuff that they are never that I'm sure at some point they probably gave them some joy, or where it was a process of buying it and having it or whatever. I'm sure that was something that made them happy. But the thing about it is that now it's a burden on somebody else. And I mentioned my father earlier about how he did that process to get rid of all those things so he wouldn't have a burden that he would give to myself or his wife or whatever. And it's like it's something that you should do. And my board games are absolutely one of those things. When I had 3,000 board games, if a bus came out unexpectedly and splatted me on the sidewalk, my wife wouldn't know what to do with all that stuff. She'd have no idea. She'd have no idea how to collect it, no idea how to put it together, no idea how to send it off or whatever. And the same thing goes for all these books that I have. I have no idea. And there's a problem that people have is that the collecting becomes more of a hobby than the actual hobby itself. And this goes for any collection, collectionist, if you will. It is the hunt, it is the seek, it is the find. It doesn't matter if it's baseball cards or comic books or vinyl records. That is the whole thing about like discovering that diamond in the rough, finding that one LP of like some live session of the Doors in this one section in a backwoods used vinyl shop that you didn't even know existed. I mean, that is more exciting than they probably actually of the playing of that record. Now, the I guess my ultimate point here is that your collection is eventually going to consume the area you live in. It's going to consume way too much of the resources and money that you have that you uh, are able to spend. I mean, and I mean, absolutely there's going to be people out there that said, no, I allow myself X number of dollars uh, each month that I can spend on this hobby, and that's all, and I regiment myself to that. But most of us do not have the capability and to do that. I myself included spent way too much money on all the hobbies that I've been involved in. And to the detriment of like not being like a good parent. I mean, in some cases, and that's tough for me to admit, but it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, do I really need to buy back another $500 all-in Kickstarter? Perhaps I should save that money and use it for to help like my kids and their activities and things like that. Absolutely. I mean, with that $500 being saved, and much better idea, much better process for me than that like moment of happiness when I get that giant all-in game that I play once and then put on a shelf and never look at again. I mean, absolutely. But it's tough. It is really, really tough to break that hold of getting things, collecting things, having things. It's tough to break that process. I mean, I in that closet back there's probably like 1,000 graphic novels back there. When I was not married, when I didn't have kids, I went to the comic book store every week and spent 50, 60, 70, $100 a week just buying graphic novels that I was going to read once, maybe, and then never read again. That's stuff I got to get rid of too. And I need to get rid of it, in one of those situations I need to get rid of it. I need to find a library to take that stuff off my hands. And I need to so other people can read it and enjoy it because there's no sense in me owning it anymore. And I guess in this day and age, I guess somebody at Gen Con actually said something to me that made sense to me. I don't think board games are for owning anymore. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, think of it this way. He said, when you go to a movie and you go to a movie theater, and I realize movie theaters are probably on their way out, but you go to a movie theater, you take your wife, take your kids. He said, you're spending 60, 70, $80 to go to that movie. All the food, ticket, everything involved. You don't get to keep that movie. You get to keep the memories, you get to keep the good times, but you don't get to keep it. He said, you spend $80 on a board game, you get to bring it home, you get to play it. And it's fun. You get to maybe play it again. You get to maybe play it again. What are the chances, he said, that you're going to play that game 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now? Not great, right? I mean, like we all have our 10 board games that we're excited to play, and we'll play them anytime we want. But we all know we have games in our collection that we played maybe once, if that, and it's never going to come off that shelf again. Well, just think of that thing. He said, think of that game as a movie. Think of that game as like I played it once. I had a good time. Now I need to sell it for $10 or $20, at least to get a little money back and give it to somebody else. and get that off your shelf. So my whole goal right now is to get like my book collection, my RPG book collection down to a reasonable number, like 500 books. And then if I bring another book in, I have to get rid of a book. So find a book that I no longer want and replace it with another book. If I get another board game, once I get down to like 100 games, 200 games, if I decide this is a good game I want to have in my collection, I'm going to play it again. I need to find a game in my collection to get rid of. And if I can maintain that, if I can do that, it will keep my collection under control and it won't turn into this giant issue or this giant problem down the road. And that's my goal. And if you are in a situation where you are running out of room in your house, like I am, if you are in a situation where maybe the people in your life, and what's more important, your board game collection or the people in your life, if the people in your life are like, I think you got a problem here, keep buying this stuff. If you are like you're having like the idea of like I need to build a shed in my backyard so I can put more stuff in it. Maybe it's time to take a moment and say, maybe I should get rid of some of this stuff. Anyway, that's just my opinion. What do you think about your collection? What do you do to get rid of it all? What do you do to? I mean, do what's your well? How many games do you have in your collection? How are you going to do that? I mean, how are you going to what do you do to maintain your collection? I would love to hear your stories and ideas. And if you got a good place that I don't know about that isn't like eBay or whatever, where people can take a bunch of board games off my hands in one fell swoop, I'd love to do that. And give me your ideas or your hints or whatever. Because I'm always looking to liquidate stuff and figure that stuff out too. And I'm sure people that are watching this video would also have that opinions. Anyway, I apologize if anything I said offended anybody about their collections. Like I said, if you want to have 10,000 board games and that's what makes you happy, then you should do it. What I'm saying is that I think a lot of us, if we took a moment and we thought about our collections, we would say, I really need to do something about this. And maybe I can help you get over that hump and you can declutter your house a little bit. But anyway, until next time, take care of yourself, be good to yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.